Okay, so we're going to take a look today at changing a type of an element inside Kontent.ai. It sounds like a fairly simple thing, but there's a use case here. The use case is that we've defined a piece of content and we have decided that initially this was going to be, let's say, a text element. Later on down the line, it turns out actually what we really want to do is use a rich text element. We need to put some more formatting in there. This isn't a straightforward operation. You can't go into Kontent.ai and change the type definition. So if we have a look at my example solution here, we've got an article type, and we can see in the article type that I have a title, it's text, and we have a body. We can't go into here and just change this. There's no method to say, well, I want this to be rich text now, please convert it for me. That simply doesn't exist. So we're going to have a look at how we might do that today. I've got a repo here. You can go and grab this. It's publicly available. It's got everything you need at the moment to set up the demo to show how this all works. I'll quickly talk through the bits and pieces that we need to see. The first thing to say is that because we are going to be copying information about, we need to know how to copy a variable from one to the other. It should be a bit like sucking eggs, but essentially if we just see this really simple example here, we've got two variables A and B. We're going to take A, we're going to pop it into a temporary variable called C. We're going to then copy the value from B into A and then copy from C back into B again. And when we've done all of that, we can get rid of C. So very straightforward swapping things around. We're going to need to know how to do that. The next thing we're going to need to know is that if we are changing a content type from plain text to rich text, in order to insert rich text into Kontent.ai, we need to know that we have a actual set of markup that is valid markup for content. So we can't simply copy that text value into a new element. We're going to need to modify it. So we'll effectively create a new element to put our values into. So the steps are going to be, we've got our old element and our new element. We're going to copy the value from the old element, we're going to wrap some markup around it, and we're going to pop it into the new element. Once that's done, we can then get rid of the value of the old element, and in fact get rid of the old element altogether. So let's just take a look at what we've got in the solution at the moment. In the solution, in my project in content, I've got several different content items that we're going to work with to represent what you might have and the issues you're going to see when you look at this inside your live projects. We've got archived items, we've got draft items. These are fairly easy to deal with. We've got a published item, slightly more difficult, and possibly the most difficult one to look at is a published item that has a draft as well. What this change does is going to update all of these. So the current published version and any current draft versions, current archived versions are going to get updated by this to make sure we don't lose any historical content. Now, the caveat here is that we're not going to go and update lots and lots of historical versions. It's simply not available to do in the management API. We can only look at the current published version and, if there is one, the current draft version. So that's what we're going to focus on today. I'm not going to run through all of the code because that would be, there's a lot of code to look at, but we'll run through some of the stuff at a high level, and you can look in the repo yourself, and if you've got any suggestions for improvements, please obviously let me know. So if we go and look at what we've got, what I've got is this very, very simple solution really. I've used the migration boilerplate to build this. So we've got really only two scripts. They're all done in TypeScript. They're quite long in terms of what they do. The first one, actually, you don't need to worry about too much. It deals with restoring the data ready so that you can run the tests. And it's all kind of explained in the README. But effectively, when we run this project, I've used the Content Backup Manager to restore some basic content into the CMS. And then we can run this first script here. It's just going to go through and publish and move some content around and make a change to one of the pieces. So you end up with content like this. These are nothing exceptional. We've got a title, we've got some some content. And then this one has a published version and a draft version of the same thing as we kind of previously said. So you can have a look at it. We can compare the versions, and you can see that there is in fact, or at least there should be a change between the published version and the current version. Just a little bit of text in there so we can make sure that doesn't get lost. Looking at the next script, it doesn't look like we're doing very much. I'm calling this method here that says, right, using the API client, we're going to convert on this type, this element, to a rich text field. And that all happens in this util class that we've got over here. And there's quite a lot going on in this util class. If we have a look at it, convert to rich text, what it does is it's what I explained before. It's going to go in, it's going to create a whole new element of the type that we want, and we're going to tell it what we want to call it as well. It will give it a different name, and it will move the content from the old element into the new element, and it will wrap this tag around it. So we can specify what those tags are. So we might want it to be a paragraph, we might want it to be a H3. It doesn't really matter. We're going to wrap that tag around all of the content in that text field, and we're then going to save it to that new element. Once that's been done for every single content item that exists, we're then going to delete the old content element and rename the new content element. So we're going to run this. I've got the name of the file in my clipboard. That's what we're going to run, and it should go through. There we go. It's a bit of output to let us know that we're doing some things. But now, when we go back to our content item, you can see it's all over the place. It's saying everything's changed. I'll just reload the page. For some reason, it's not responding nicely to me. This is now a H1, and we can see that in there. So all of those content items, they've all been updated. We can still see the difference between the two versions. So we can see the difference here between the versions. This is what we were looking at a moment ago. We've got the previously published version and the current draft version, and that word edited is still the new thing. And if we go back and look at other items as well, our draft, it's a H1, that's fine. Our published content item is a H1, that's also fine. So this change is basically applied to every single current version and any previously published versions that we wanted it to be, without going any further back in history. And that's it. In essence, to talk about it, there's quite a lot of code that goes on. Please feel free to take a look at the repo. I'll pop a link to the repo in the notes on the video, and you can go and have a look. But hopefully that'll really help you quickly change some types about using the Kontent.ai boilerplate migrations to change types from text to rich text. Other changes are available. Please do go and have a look. Thank you.